Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, no, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Vajracharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Vishnu Paramahamsa Vajracharya, no, all the way in the corner. All the way. Oh, you can put it on one of the cushions here outside. Yeah. And this bag, I forgot to get the bag. You see the bag here? Spaced out. Maybe that fall did affect my brain power. Santo, where's the bag? No bag? See that orange bag there? Yeah, this one. Yeah, bring it over here. I need that bag. You see the bag right there? Yeah, the bag. There's been a breakdown in communication here. Okay, thank you. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Okay, just give me a second here. All right, text 10, right?
The 10 and 11?
Not 10?
It's 10.
Yeah, okay. Okay. On this 20th day of March, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.
It's 11 and 12.
Okay. All right, why don't we start over again? 11 and 12. Oh, yeah, you're right, of course. All right, can you close the door? Make sure the door's closed. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 20th day of March, 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're in chapter 6 entitled Dhyāna-yoga, the yoga of meditation. Text number 11 and 12 at the bottom of page 266. Suchau Deshe Pratishtapya Stiram Asanam Atmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotaram Suchadeshe Pratishtapya Stiramasanamatmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotaram Shuchaudeshe Pratishtapya Stiramasanamatmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotaram Shuchaudeshe Pratishtapya Stiramasanamatmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotaram. Go ahead, Santo. Suchadeshe Pratishtapya Stiram Stiramasanamatmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajana Kushotaram. Go ahead, Jay. Suchaudeshe Pratishtapya Stiramasanamatmanaha Natyutritam Nati Nicham Chailajina Kushotaram. Anyone online want to try?
Suchaudeshe Pratishtapya
Suchaudeshe Pratishtapya
Sthiram Asanam Atmana
Stiramasanamatmanaha
Nati Chiritam Nati Nicham
Natyutritam Nati Nicham
Chailajina Kushotaram.
Chailajina Kushotaram. All right, I'll chant the second one myself. Tattvaikagram manakritva yatachittendriya kriyaha upavishyasane yunjad yogamatman vishuddheye. Word by word. Okay. Shuchau, in a sanctified deshe, land, pratishtapya, placing, stiram, firm, asanam, seat, atmanaha, his own, na, not ati tu utritam, high, na, not ati tu nicham, low. chaila ajina, of soft cloth and deer skin, kusha and kusha grass, uttaram, covering, tatra, thereupon, eka agram, with one attention, manaha, mind, kritva, making, yata chitta, controlling the mind, indriya, senses, kriyaha, and activities, upavishya, sitting, asane, on the seat, yunjat, should execute, yogam, yoga practice, atma, the heart, vishuddhaye, for clarifying. Translation. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Intermission. Can you go in the back there and make sure the door is closed and encourage them to close the kitchen door as well? Yeah. Just a note, in case you're wondering, the deer skin is from a deer that has died naturally. They don't go and kill a deer like that. Yeah. Even Prabhupada said, okay, you want to eat cow meat? Fine, but let the cow die naturally, then eat it, like that. Nobody does that. Okay. Purport. Sacred place refers to places of pilgrimage. In India, the yogis, the transcendentalists, or the devotees, all leave home and reside in sacred places such as Prayag, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesha, and Hardwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganges flow. But often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Brihanaradiya Purana, it is said that in the Kali Yuga, the present yuga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gataranyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. So, Krishna is now giving practical instructions on how to practice the yoga process that he's described. Yesterday we were mentioning the three categories of knowledge that is taught in the Vedas and that is taught in the Bhagavad Gita and all the Vedic scriptures that we have. And that is the Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. Sambandha is understanding the relationship. Sambandha literally means bond, a bond. What is the relationship between God and this world and ourselves? It includes who are we, what are we? That's the whole idea of the soul, not the body, which is the first lesson of Krishna consciousness. And what is that? What is that soul? What is the relation of the soul with the body? And what is the relationship of ourselves and everything we see with God, the Creator? That's the Sambandha. And that has to be preliminary, because otherwise the next process is abhideya, which means practice to realize the goal. And without understanding the relationships, then the practice doesn't really make any sense. Just like if you're going to, say a doctor learns in college how to perform an operation. So he has to know exactly, the nature of the body, where it's safe to cut, and how to prevent too much bleeding and all of these different things. before he even takes the scalpel and does it, right? I mean, they have cadavers you practice on, or even dummies, I guess, in other words, before you actually do it. So that's part of the sambandha, the relationship of you to the scalpel, how to hold it, and how deep you can cut in order to not hit anything essential. All of these things have to be there. The knowledge before you actually operate on somebody. And then you learn how to perform the operation. And the goal is a successful operation. The patient gets cured. That's every process has those three elements. So Krishna has spoken about, the mind. You remember how the mind is the worst enemy, worst enemy, the best friend. And, the mind is the chief element of the practice in the yoga system. And now he's giving practical instruction. These verses now, and for the next few verses, you're going to see that. And we get to text 20, I think it is, 20 to 23. He gives the description of the goal, the highest bliss, experiencing transcendental happiness through transcendental senses, and all these things. So now, as Prabhupada often does in his purports, he brings it all back home to Krishna consciousness, even though there's other ways you could go. In other words, it's someone who's practicing Ashtanga yoga would not give the instruction in the purport that actually, in this age, you really can't practice it. You should chant Hare Krishna. Because that's what Prabhupada is saying here. And the interesting thing is Prabhupada had experience with this. The history is that when he came in 1965 to New York at the instructions of his spiritual master, Hare Krishna, welcome. We're going to have darshan at 8:15. Yes, yeah. Otherwise, you can come for class, Bhagavad Gita class. So Prabhupada was, the history is that he spent many years in India writing his books, going around preaching. He had even a temple for a while in Jhansi. He was loaned a building, which he set up there, and he had his first disciple here, Acharya Prabhakar, his name was, who was able to teach Prabhupada some Sanskrit, more Sanskrit. But he was his disciple, and they would preach. They would go on Harinam, and they would hold classes and do everything, And Prabhupada thought, okay, this is what Krishna has provided. This is how I'll be able to spread. It's from my own center. I don't have to, I'm not under one of my god brothers and anything. But Krishna had other plans, and what happened was that the temple had been loaned, I think, by the governor of the state or something, and Prabhupada never got the deed to it, But and then somebody came who was a friend of the governor's wife, who saw that building as a perfect situation for a women's auxiliary or something like that. And so Prabhupada was evicted, And so then, now what? So he eventually went to Vrindavan. He started publishing his Back to Godhead magazine. That was his main outlet of literary writing. He would write and solicit some articles. And, he didn't have much money. He would approach wealthy, Vaishnavas who would give a little something, and he'd print I think he printed very regularly for a few years, distributing that. And then a friend told him, these papers are very nice. They're actually just like maybe 8 pages of newsprint. That was the magazine, But his spiritual master told him to write, that he was very good writing in English. He should write, so he was fulfilling that. But he also told him to go abroad and preach and spread Krishna consciousness. He wasn't able to fulfill that right away, So he did what he could. And then a friend explained, he was getting on. He took sannyas, I think, at 58, at the age of 58 or 59, something like that. And then he spent the next decade, basically, in India. There was a temple in Delhi. He was also writing, and also, I think, in Radha Damodar temple. He was able to get a room there. So he's always writing. He had a little typewriter. He would type, like 2 fingers. And a friend said, these papers are very nice, but people will throw them away. But if you print books, they'll be permanent. Prabhupada was inspired by that. So he decided, he said, one of my diseases is I can't think small. So he decided to publish the Srimad Bhagavatam in 60 volumes. So it took him 4 years to publish the 3 volumes because he had no money. So he got 1 volume published finally, then used that to solicit money from others to get in. After 4 years, I think it was, he had the 3 volumes printed. And by that time, it was almost 1965. And so he decided, well, somehow or other, I'm going to go to the West. And he decided not to go to England, who his godbrothers had visited before, was sent there by a spiritual master. They couldn't do much there. But he said, let me go to America, which had really, by that time, become more the center of material power, and they had more influence than UK, because it was after the war, after World War II, they lost their empire and everything, and India got independence. So he said, let me go to New York City. So he had to, he didn't have any money. He had to beg a free passage from a Vaishnavi who was running a shipping company in Bombay. And so she was very favorable to him, and she thought, no, you're too old. You're going to die there. I won't give you a free passage. So he had a sit-in. You're familiar with the sit-ins and the civil rights? They just sit on the bus or sit in. So Prabhupada he camped out on her, she had a building, she was a wealthy, business lady. So he was out there chanting, and, finally said, okay, let the Swami come in, So he said, okay, I'll give you a passage. So then he had to get the P form. There's all kinds of things you have to write, get in order to be able to leave the country. So everything in order. And what really inspired him is that he had a friend in, I think, Delhi or somewhere who was giving him small donations, and he was a Vaishnava. And he said, okay, if you want to go to America, I have a son who's living there in Pennsylvania, and he can sponsor you, because he needed to have someone sponsor, so he wouldn't become a ward of the state. He could go to the immigration and say, okay, you have a place to go? Yes, I have this place, and it's sponsored. So that was set up. So finally, it was like August of '65, he got on the boat. He had a bunch of his books, big containers of his books that he had, maybe, 60, 70 sets, of 3 volumes. And off he went, just heroically. At age 69, his health wasn't that great. And he had never been on such a boat. He got seasick. He had two heart attacks. And Prabhupada said, he's writing his diary. He kept a diary, Jaladuta diary. And if he felt if it happens a 3rd time, I'm finished, So he has a dream, and Krishna comes to him in a dream, don't worry, I'm going to take charge of the ship, and you'll be all right. So it was the middle of hurricane season. I mean, you're talking about August in the Atlantic is when the hurricanes come, July through September, if you know. But somehow the ocean became very calm. And even when they approached they first stopped in Boston, the wife kind of joked with him, can you please come back with us, Swami? We've never had such a smooth crossing of the Atlantic. So Krishna, he had his hand in it. So Prabhupada arrived, but he did stay in Philadelphia. He did stay in Butler, Pennsylvania, for a few weeks. But there really wasn't much traction there that he could do. So he made his way back to New York. He had contacted a yoga teacher there, Dr. Mishra, who was living in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, I think, or maybe the Upper West Side. And he had established a yoga studio. Yoga was becoming a little popular. He had some students there. So he offered Prabhupada, yes, you can stay with me like that. So he was able to stay there. But he wasn't free to preach because he wasn't. This Mishra was an impersonalist, and when Prabhupada spoke, he was very charismatic, and he felt that he was influencing his students, and he might go with the Swami. So he said, you can stay here, but you can't speak. Great. So Prabhupada kept writing his books, and then eventually Dr. Mishra moved him to an office. He lived in an office, not an office building, but an office. There was no place to cook there. This was near I think, in Riverside Drive on the west side of the Manhattan Island. And he would have to walk to the Dr. Mishra's place in order to cook. It was very inconvenient. But he found a way to offer classes in that little office. It was like from that wall to here to the door. This part. This is how big. Or even less. He's living in there, writing in there, sleeping in there, and teaching in there. He found a few followers, but it wasn't really happening. And finally, he got burgled. Someone came in and stole his typewriter. And they stole also his reel-to-reel tape recorder. I don't know if you've ever seen those. Someone had donated that, which is great, because Prabhupada dictated the whole introduction to this book. It was done in that office. And when they stole the tape recorder, they didn't steal the tape. You know, that tape was really the real value. Anyway, Prabhupada was kind of discouraged then from living there. And by that time, there was some contacts down in the Lower East Side who were hearing about this Swami, real Swami, who was up in, so they encouraged him to come down, and he did. And that was the real start of it, where he came down to the Bowery and then to the 26th 2nd Avenue. Prabhupada, in his purports here, Krishna has given this very austere instruction. You go to a secluded place. You got to be completely alone. Lay this kusha grass on the ground, and you find that deer skin. I've explained it's from a deer that died naturally. Okay. Neither too high nor low. Situated in a sacred place. Sit on it very firmly. Practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling the mind, senses, activities. He's going to mention pranayama and how what to meditate on and so forth. So right away, Prabhupada said, this isn't practical. This is not yoga. He says, often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. You go to on the bank of the Yamuna or Ganges, so-called yoga societies, big cities. He's referring to his experience there. He's writing this probably in 1970, dictating it a few years after his experience in the yoga studio. Not possible for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies that he stayed in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they're not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. You can only go so far, and basically they provide a place you can get limber, you can do all the asanas. You've seen that, I did it for a while. And amazingly, Prabhupada didn't really ultimately discourage it. There's a nice pastime where Prabhupada's in a morning walk. He would go for a morning walk shortly after sunrise for his health, and they would go, to places if there's a body of water like a lake or something, or on the ocean beach. He would go like that. So once they're walking along, I forget where it was, and they saw, it was probably in India, I think, and they saw someone standing on his head, doing a headstand a little ways away, it's a soft beach area. And one of the devotees said, "Oh, we don't do that." Srila Prabhupada said, "You should try it. It's not bad. It can help you." So a lot of devotees do a little yoga, Vaisheshika does. I did for years. I was doing that. So anyway, but that's we don't think that, we're going to make a progress with yoga there. The yoga is what we do, the chanting of the holy name and the worship and things. That's bhakti yoga. And Prabhupada quotes this key verse here. This is a verse that many devotees know because it's very easy to memorize. It repeats. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Hare Nama is, of course, the holy name of Hari, of Krishna. Nama eva kevalam. You see, it's Nama eva kevalam. Nama eva, certainly kevalam, alone. Kalo, in the age of Kali, Kalo, na asti, means there is not. Asti means is, na means not. Interestingly, the atheists are called Gnostikas. Means that, no, there is not a God. You see? Gnostika. And Prabhupada would sometimes use the word agnostic, the English word agnostic, because it sounds like it. But an agnostic is not a full-on atheist. Agnostic means I don't know, right? I was an agnostic. I said, well, I don't know if there's a God or not, but I'm open to learning whether there is. The atheists are absolutely 100% sure there's no God. They're declared enemies of God. And that means Gnostika. No, there is not. He doesn't exist, you see? So here's na asti. But it's not talking about that here. There is not any other. Anyata is other. Gati. Gati is an interesting word. It means the goal or the means to the goal. It means the means to the goal here. When we sing the song, both in the Gurvashtaka song, if you're in Mangalarti, and the Guru Puja song, that word is there. The gati. Gati meaning the means. Shri Guru Chadana Rati Ese Uttama Gati. That means the affection for the lotus feet of the Guru is the best means of advancement, because it impels you out of love, out of affection, to service. And the whole idea is to get in a position where you're serving the great Acharya, you're serving the Guru. That's the prerequisite to advancement. And how does it serve? By hearing first. That's what we're doing. We're hearing Srila Prabhupada. We're actually serving him by doing that. a very important understanding. So, but what does it mean to chant the holy name? Well, you know, you can chant the holy name offensively. You know, there's 10 offenses, one of which is inattention. So the whole thing, it comes back again to the mind. That the mind, if you can absorb it in hearing and chanting the holy name, then you're performing this same function of meditation on Krishna. Because this is one of the inconceivable things that you learn. You know, there's a verse I'll give you about it. That the holy name is non-different from Krishna himself. How can that be? We know our name is certainly different from us. But things directly related to Krishna are non-different from Krishna. These deities are not just the statues. You know, to the degree that we can see spiritually we're purified, we can feel the presence of the deity, and Prabhupada says even talk to the deity. You know, even if it's just in the mind, you can feel the deity is communicating to you. So that's why, you know, there's so much care in serving, and, you know, what's the point of offering food? You know, does he really eat? Well, how come the food is always there? You know, so Prabhupada, I heard a lecture recently where he says he eats. He says I eat. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti padidam ashnami prayatatmanaha. Ashnami means I eat. Eat what? He eats food in these 4 categories that we offer, can prepare with great, you know, skill. But basically, patram is leaves, you know, vegetables. Pushpam, flour, that can be the flour of the wheat plant, you know, which is wheat, you know, and bread and everything. Pushpam palam, of course, fruit, and toyam is water, or it can mean milk also, you know, like that. So they're basically vegetarian food. Yome bhaktya priyachati, that is offered with love by my devotees. That without the love, without the affection, without the devotion, he doesn't eat it. You know? And he emphasizes it by mentioning that again. Yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti paridham. That when it's offered with love, tadaham bhakti paridham ashnami, I eat it. Ashnami prayatatmanaha, by those who are my, you know, self-controlled devotees. So he can eat it by just looking at it, because he perceives the bhakti that's there. He's really consuming that, and that makes it tasty to him. You know, so it's all this transcendental stuff going on. But so just as he's present in the deity, he's present in his name, and the name has a great advantage. It's always accessible. You don't have to be in the temple, and wherever you are, you can chant and hear. You can chant in your mind. You can chant on your lips. You can chant loudly. We're meant to chant loudly, you know, and at a certain point, it can go on inside. You know, it should go on inside. But that's the meditation on God that these Ashtanga yogis doing. But it's practical in this age, and the result is also much greater, because by chanting this name, you develop this love for God. By meditation, often what happens is you develop siddhis, you know, by controlling the mind, of certain perfection. Like you know, the thing with Jesus walking on water, you know. Well, there's some account that he actually went east. There's some missing years in his account, right? That he went to India, and he developed, you know, some yogic powers like that. So you can become lighter than lightest. You can read minds. You can do all kinds of things. So those siddhis often distract the yogi. He gets powerful siddhis, and he's not performing devotional service, so you're not developing that devotional attitude. And so you can easily become, and there in Bhagavatam is full of them, yogis who are very proud, you know, Durvasa Muni. For many years I thought Durvasa means, oh, okay, his clothes are far away. That means he's naked. But no, Vasa can mean also where you live. So it means he's difficult to live with, this Durvasa Muni. He gets angry very easily, you know, but he had thousands of disciples. So this Durvasa Muni was very proud, you know, and he wanted to be honored wherever he went, you know. And he went to see Ambarish, a great devotee king, and the king is in a lower level than the yogis there at the Brahminical stage, you know, so the king was meant to give him all honor, and he did respect him. But he was getting so much honor for just doing bhakti. You know, and what was he doing? Savaimana Krishna Padada Vindaya. There's a couple of verses described. First he put his mind on the Lord, then he used all his words to glorify the Lord. He used his hands to clean the place of the Lord. Every sense was described how he is connected by performing devotion as a king. And normally kings are, kshatriyas, they're lower than the Brahminical. So this time, what is he getting so much honor for, And so he conspired, and it was pretty demonic, really, to embarrass him and compromise him. So he knew that he was a very strict follower of Ekadashi. And Ekadashi really strictly means you don't eat anything, you don't drink anything, and you don't sleep the whole night. You just chant, you fast throughout the night. And then the next morning, there's a certain interval of time when you're supposed to break it. Like tomorrow, we always read the time to break, Bhadri Narayana says, it's not so necessary. Prabhupada didn't follow it so strictly, but, we try to do it. He's supposed to eat some grains between the hours of 5 and 7, or 7 and 10 usually. Usually it's not a problem. One time we had, the interval was like 10 seconds. It can be one. So I was standing, I went outside with a cup of halwa. So everyone come to me during that time, you take a little bit, and try to. But anyway, so Ambarish was strict about that, and Durvasa knew that. So he arrived at his kingdom just alone, and Ambarish said, "Oh, come and you can join me in breakfast, to break the fast for Ekadashi." He says, "Okay, fine," but he wants to take a bath. This is traditional. After you travel, you bathe first, and then you take prasadam. So, but he planned it so that he would stay in the water until the time for breaking was expired. Putting Ambarish in trouble because he's his guest. Now you can't eat before your guest. If you have this exalted guest, you don't say, "Well, I'll eat first and then I'll," no, it doesn't work like that. You have to feed the guest first. He knew that. And Ambarish said, "Okay, I can't eat. Now the time is expiring." He didn't have a watch, but you know what I'm talking. And so he consulted his Brahmin advisors, and they didn't know what to do. So he said, "I think I know what I can do. I'll just drink a little water." Because water is not breaking the fast and breaking at the same time, So that way, So he did that. And when Durvasa Muni came out of the water, he could tell by his mystic power that Ambarish had eaten water. So he said, "Oh, this is a great offense. You've eaten before your guest." So he created a demoness from his hair. This is one of the powers of the yogis. And she grows up, a big fiery demoness, and goes to Ambarish to burn him to ashes. Now, what was Ambarish's reaction? Did he, "Oh my God," and run as fast away? No, he just kept chanting Hare Krishna. If Krishna wants me to go. And so Krishna's chakra appeared right away, destroyed the demoness, and went after Durvasa, threatening him. He to be killed by the chakra is actually auspicious. He didn't take it that way. Oh my God! And so he started running, and he could fly. He was a yogi, and he went up to here, and he went to Shiva. He said, "Please help me. I can't help you. That's Krishna's chakra." Brahma couldn't help him. He finally went to Svetadvip, which is a Vaikuntha planet in the universe here. That's where Dhruva is. And he wanted to find Vishnu there and ask him. He lives there. So he ran down, he saw Vishnu, he offered his obeisances, and he said, "Please, make sure that, call off your chakra." So Vishnu says something where he says, "I can't. I'm completely under the control of my devotees," And he's a few more famous verses. And then he said, "You have to go down to Ambarish and beg his forgiveness, and maybe he'll save you." I said, "Okay." Boom, we got on the, mystic power of flying, and goes down, finds Ambarish and offers a basis. And Ambarish sees what's going on, and so he calls the chakra off, he's saved. So this Durvasa, he was a great yogi, but he got deviated. He didn't develop the Brahminical qualities, the Vaishnava qualities, just from meditation. You can become very, proud, and you can also become very dangerous. Because it's just a subtle material power that you're developing. It doesn't mean that you're becoming a good person necessarily. So anyway, of course, in the process that Krishna will describe here, you'll be realizing the super soul, and but at the end you'll see Arjuna says, "Not for me. I can't practice this." Right? Mind is too powerful, too restless. So we'll see. But it's very interesting what he practices, because there is a relative practice in bhakti for each of these, Because the whole idea is to regulate the mind and control and fix it on the transcendence. And we do that also, but do it in a practical way. All right, if there's no discussion, I will go on.
So I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I see in the Krishna Lila also, Mahabharata, the Durvasha Muni again appears, and the gopis are who goes there. I mean, Kunti Devi. Does it mean that Durvasha Muni later become Vaishnava?
The Durvasha Muni become a Vaishnava. You know, I'm not. You know, I'm really going to have to plead ignorance to that. I don't remember any pastime where he actually surrendered and became a full-on Vaishnava. Because he comes up a lot. This whole thing with Draupadi, where she got Kunti got a blessing, right?
Yes.
And Draupadi got a blessing that whatever she oh no, that was that. Yeah, I don't know if she got that blessing from him that she can feed as many people. Did she get that from him? That she could feed as many people as she wanted before she ate. You know that pastime? Because Duryodhana got a benediction from Durvasa, and it's one of these things, well, I'll take it later when I need it, you know? So then what happened is that Duryodhana was always out to get the Pandavas, you know, and try to wipe them off the face of the earth so he wouldn't have a rival. So he knew that during the period of exile, they're wandering in the forest, Draupadi's with them, you know, for 11 years, 14 years. And so he knew that this Durvasa, he had 60,000 disciples, you know, and so it's this whole thing again of going and needing to be fed, you know. So Draupadi had the power of cooking and being able to feed as many people as possible until she ate. If she had her lunch, then you couldn't feed anymore. So Duryodhana told Durvasa, okay, you go there with your disciples in where they are in the forest, because they were keeping track with them. And but go after they've all had their lunch. So Durvasa said, okay. So he went there, and the Pandavas said, oh, very welcome. You know, they honored him as a great yogi. And you can come and take lunch, you know, but first you can bathe, you know, like again bathing, you know. So then they said, what are we going to do? You know, Draupadi's already eaten and everything. They felt great danger here, you know. So Krishna comes personally, and he says, all right, give me a little of the prasad. So I said, no, there's nothing left. You just check in the pot, see if there's something. So they found a little bit of vegetable, you know, like there's always something left over. So give me that. So he ate that, and as soon as he did, all the 60,000 disciples and Durvasa felt that they were completely filled up. They couldn't eat another bite, you know. And so they said, oh boy, they're going to be embarrassed because she's preparing a meal for all of us, so we better get going. So they fled away. And this way they were safe. So now, I didn't understand your question. What was the question?
My question was, did Durvasha Muni become Vaishnava?
Oh, did he ever become a Vaishnava? I don't recall, frankly. I can do a little research. If you just text me or write me an email, I'll try to research that and I'll have the answer tomorrow. It'll be an answer, yes or no, or an answer, I don't know. I couldn't find anything. But I can't.
Thank you. Thank you. I said it.
Let's go on. Samam kaya shiro grivam Dariyan achalam stiraha Samprekshanasikagram swam Dishascha navalokayan Prashantatma vigatabhir Brahmachari bhatestitaha Manag samyamya machitto Yukta asitamatparaha. Now here's very practical. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Every time I try to do that, I get cross-eyed, so I can't do that. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Purport. The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu, and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. By the way, Prabhupada uses the phrase sex life to mean sex. That's exactly what it means. Because otherwise sex life has a whole other connotation. It's everything that leads up to sex, everything that comes after sex is sex. So sex, of which sex is the chief. In the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, Karmanam anasavacha sarvavastasu sarvada sarvata maitunatyago brahmacharyam prachakshate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind, at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula, or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be dhyana, jnana, or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation, is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the jnana and dhyana schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. By the way, Prabhupada uses the word cult, meaning cultivation. It doesn't mean what we know as the cult, you know. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:59, it is said, Vishayavane vartante naraharasya dehinaha vasabhajang vasopyasya parang drishvana vartate. Whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. Other than a devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigata B, this is in the verse, one of the verses that we just read in the text. One cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam 11.237 says, Bhayam dvitiyabandabheshataksad ishadapeta seviparhiyo smritihi. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies. So you can see Prabhupada is giving us a good instruction not to be bewildered by the commercial yoga societies, where they're not really practicing strict yoga. But there's good instruction here. You know, this whole thing with brahmachari, karmanam, and asabhacha is very strict. You know, Prabhupada, one of his ashrams set up that way. He was very much aware that in the West, this is an alien tradition, you know, that in the schools, I mean, even more now than I think during his time, but it was certainly happening then, it was co-education. But at that time, I don't think they had co-educational dorms, because I went to school in 1965 to college in Chicago, and there was a men's dorm and there was a women's dorm. But now I understand that, you know, there's just a dorm, which is obviously disastrous for brahmacharis, no question of it. So, this instruction of Krishna is difficult, and Prabhupada is saying that, okay, and the imitation yoga studios are not really helping people to find the ultimate goal of life. At best, they can make your mind calmer, and you get, a healthy body. That they certainly can do. But that's not the goal of yoga. That's not really the goal of yoga. So this was, this is all my way. Krishna is giving all these instructions, and they're valid. And Prabhupada makes the point elsewhere that yes, it's possible to do this for a very few. And in fact, I remember I never went to the Kumbh Melas, but devotees did a couple of times. Prabhupada took the devotees, and they saw there, because it's pretty near the Himalayas, right? The Prayag, Allahabad, northern India. And a bunch of these real yogis had come down. They come down when that happens, every 12 years, when there's a real big one. And so they would see these guys, and they some of them looked very young, and some of them wearing nothing, And Prabhupada said, okay, be careful, because he looks like they're 30 years old, but it could be 300 years old. And There are different camps of them, different groups. And I remember, I think I read this in National Geographic. They did a special on one Kumbh Mela over the years. And there was a rumble, because there's a certain time that's just auspicious, right? It's very, precise time. The 40th minute of this hour, and it's always in early January. It's freezing cold, you go. So, who's going to be the first be able to bathe at that exact time? Because there's millions of people and they all want to go in, but they know to let the yogis go first. But the yogis are also battling because there's different groups of them. So that's why the army comes out. It's like a whole city is made, and an army comes out to keep them apart, to pacify, because it's a whole thing. But Krishna consciousness, and why? The whole purpose is for liberation, so that we won't have to take birth again, But it comes up again and again how Krishna consciousness is a byproduct. Liberation is a byproduct of Krishna consciousness. There's this beautiful verse by Bilvamangal Thakur in his Krishna Karnamrita. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Paneshri. You'll get the darshan in a few minutes. So, this verse describes how, graphically, the one bhakti svayishta tada bhagavadgita. This is where Bilvamangal says that mukti is just waiting for me at the door, to serve me. So he says, bhakti tvayi stiratada bhagavadgita daivena nakpalati divya kishora murti. Welcome, Hare Krishna. You'll have a few more minutes of Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll have darshan. Bhakti stvahi tada bhagavadgita daivena nakpalati divya kishora murti mukti swayam kulitanjali sevate sman dharmartha kama katayak samayak patiksha. So what he's saying there is that, oh my Lord, if someone is situated very nicely in firm bhakti to you, advanced bhakti tvayi stiratada Bhagavan, he's addressing Bhagavan, Krishna. Yadi syad, if that's so, then you'll get the fruit of that. Is that liberation? No. Daivena nak palati, the fruit is palati divya kishora murti, a vision of your beautiful adolescent form will appear in his mind, And as far as mukti is concerned, mukti swayam mukulitanjali. The anjali, how can I serve you, right? She's waiting at the door. Mukti personified is waiting at the door to serve me. In other words, as a byproduct of bhakti, you get liberation. And whatever you need of dharma, artha, and kama, they're also ready to serve me. So the whole point is that you don't have to, the goal of bhakti is not mukti. The goal of devotional service is not to be liberated, no more birth, all these and deaths. Although that's an important first impetus to get onto the path, right? But as you're on the path, your desires change. And Lord Chaitanya is teaching us how to pray, right, in his Shikshastakis. Nadanang najanang nasundaring kavidam bhajagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani swade bhavata bhaktada hoitaki tvahi. Janmani means birth after birth, so he's not, praying for liberation. So I put it into a little poem. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Is it? You like that? All right, you like that one so much. So let me do it, the next one. Last night we did the whole Shikshastika. We don't have time to do it this time. But the next one is even more specific. Same meter. Ay nanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam bhao kripayata vapara pankajastita tuli sadushang vichintaya. Your servant for eternity. I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace, consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. I'll just do the English for the last few. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? You see? Then he goes on, the last couple, and Yugaitam nameshena chakshasha pravashahitam shunyahitam jagatsavam govinda vidahena me. Lord Chaitanya, the mood of Radharani, he's praying. Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes, the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. Oh Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. And then the last one is, Radharani's famous verses. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet. Or let him trample me on my most ardent hope's defeat by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint. So let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. And on that note, we better adjourn and put it darshan. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. So that's 2 classes in a row. I ended with the Shikshastika. Maybe just make that a tradition. Yes, definitely. Is this a special pilgrimage you all made for these?
Today is my mother's 1 month anniversary.
Oh, I see.
So we came. And it's wonderful you're doing lecture and we got home.